Hi guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm going to take a look at the new universal plate system for die cutting machines from Spellbinders. Now I do have a Platinum 6 that I've had for a bit, and Spellbinders, when this machine was basically being produced and created, they weren't doing a lot with embossing folders anymore. From what I understand, they used to do embossing folders and then they kind of went away from it, and now they are coming back. So they've got some brand new 3D embossing folders that don't really go well when you try to put them through your machine with your regular platform. So here is the platform that I have that goes with this. It says that you should be able to do a 3D embossing folder sandwich with that, with the 3D embossing plate sold separately, which of course was not available any longer. But when I tried doing that with an embossing folder, I kind of warped the one I've got. I've got a couple from Spellbinders at this point. One has not been released yet, so that one you'll be seeing before too long, but I did try putting this through, and it'll it'll slide through with no plate there. But if you try to put one of the embossing plates, one of the regular Spellbinders plates through there with it, it is too thick to go through there. It's too much pressure, warps if you're able to even get it in, it will warp your plastic here. Now this is still usable. I'm going to be still using this embossing folder, but I should have known better. It just does not work with the thickness of that, and I know this, okay? So what I'm going to do instead, I went ahead and got the universal plate system, and yes, you can use the embossing folders with other machines if they're able to take the 3D embossing folders, but you know your machine, you know what the pressure is. I decided I wanted to get this, and thinking that it's going to help in a lot of different areas because there's more than just the embossing folder piece on here. So let's go ahead and open up the box and see what's inside. Actually, looking at the back, it's showing that there are multiple plates in here. We've got the platform base, platform top, 2 cutting plates, so that means I got replacements for my regular ones along with everything else. We've got the adapter plate, embossing mat, and shim. So that is a bunch of stuff. Here we go. And each one has labeled very well. This says shim. This is not a cutting surface, so don't cut into it. Okay. So first off, it is longer than my original platform, so that gives me more cutting surface. Second, and I'm assuming some things here before I do anything, it is, let's see if you can see that, it is just okay, here we go, now you can see it on this side. It is basically, it's not as tall, it's not as high, it's not going to have as much pressure as my regular plate does. You see that there is that little bit of extra there. Now what should happen, because I did do a little bit of research, when you put the platform top, they are flush. So there's basically, what they did is they trimmed off this little bit to give that extra space that you're going to need for your embossing folder. And that is my big #1 assumption on here, okay? I'm going to be testing it out because you always want to test this stuff on your own machine, because every machine, I've said this a lot of different times when folks have said, well, I can't get mine to work the way that yours does. It has to do with your machine itself. Every machine, the pressure is going to be different. They do manufacture everything pretty much the same way, but there's always going to be just a little bit difference. You may have more or less pressure than what my machine has got. So let me see, what do I want to try to do first? Oh my goodness. I've been waiting for this stuff to come in, by the way. Okay, I've got my 2 cutting plates. Get those out of the way. Got the shim in case I need additional pressure. This is showing basically how to do a die cutting, how to do cut in shape. So that's going to need to go out of the way because we don't need the platform top. And then this platform base does have all the instructions on there too. To give you a starting point, this is always going to be for a starting point because the pressure might be different on your machine. So we've got an adapter plate and we've got an embossing mat. So my thought is that one or the other is going to work. This says that the adapter plate should work. Okay, so this is what the section that says how to build a 3D embossing folder sandwich. So we're going to give that one a shot and see if it's too tight. If it's too tight, I will go down and I will basically use something else, probably this embossing mat here, although I don't think that one's not quite as thick. Let me see. So we've got the adapter plate. I don't even have any paper in it yet, because that's another thing. Once you start putting the paper in, okay, this is going through. Okay, it is a little snug, but it is going through. So let me add a piece of cardstock, and we will give this a try. And the cardstock, this one is heavyweight. I do have one piece of heavyweight, and the rest of these are just basically about 80-pound medium weight cardstock. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it with the black and see how that does. I'm just going to place it in the center. What I have noticed sometimes is that if you put it at the end, that puts too much pressure right at the end, because you've got the cardstock and the embossing plate and everything else, right? So let's go ahead and crank that through, see how that one works. Feels fine, doesn't feel like it's too much pressure. And again, this is on basically medium weight, probably about 80-pound cardstock. And I'd say that that looks pretty good. Let me get that in the light so you can see it a little bit better. I think you guys can see that. Because it's on black, it's a little bit harder to see, but that also means I can kind of do some fun things, like with lunar paste or some kind of shiny mica thing to bring out some of those details. So there's that one. Since this one's medium weight, I'm going to go ahead and try this heavyweight, even though it's still black. The heavyweight cardstock should wind up with a deeper impression, I think. Let's give that one a try. It's also going to have more pressure trying to go through. Pressure is still pretty good. It does look like this is making a big difference. Okay, let's take a look at that. And that one looks pretty good too. So that's with regular weight and heavyweight cardstock. Now to me, the one in heavy, let me see if I can adjust the lighting just a little bit so that you guys can see that a little bit better. Okay, so I adjusted the lights and you can see that impression a little better. Now to me, it looks better on the heavyweight cardstock than it does on the lightweight cardstock, but it still looks pretty good. That is going to make a real pretty background using those. So I've also got this one is the Radiant Burst standard, just regular embossing folder. And let's try that one out. Now the instructions on here for doing a regular emboss is where we need the platform top. So that's this piece. And we need the adapter plate again. So let's go ahead and give that a try and see how that one works. My assumption is, of course, that all of these are going to work just fine. And that basically what they did was, when they created this new system, they made it so that you can layer your plates to get the best impression possible on your die cuts, on your embossing. Mostly it's the embossing that I wanted this for. And I think that one of the reasons that they made it a little bit longer is to make it work better with these humongous embossing folders, because I'll have to be honest with you, the edges, I always had a trouble if I used a large piece of cardstock and tried to do the whole thing. Standard embossing folder. Standard embossing folder does not have D. I was looking at the wrong thing. So I do not use that. I do not use that. This says I use a regular cutting plate. Okay. Read your instructions. So I've got adapter plate, the platform base, which is A. I'm using this sandwich, so it says to use A and B and C. Okay, so I've got A and C is the cutting plates. So A and B, and then I've got my embossing folder and paper, and then I just run the whole thing through. and that is perfect. So everything else is basically going to be the same when it comes to your die cutting. You're going to be using the same die cutting sandwich as normal, just like the normal embossing folder sandwich would be using one of your plates. Only difference with this is that you will also need this little piece here. Now, if it turns out that you don't have enough pressure, they have also given you an additional shim. Now, this is real thin. It should give you just a tiny little bit of additional pressure, but that, I believe, is everything. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I'm going to have all of these shims and everything off to the side. It basically just added a couple more, but it's going to definitely make it a lot easier for me to get those really pretty embossings done with these new 3D embossing folders. And there are a ton out there that I want and I don't have yet, so I have to do some more shopping. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for dropping by, and remember, if I can make it, you can too. Oh, by the way, links to everything are going to be down in the description in case you're interested and for easy shopping. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.